Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Happy Victory Monday to my Giants fans. How we doing? It's Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. Big happenings yesterday, Week 7 in the NFL. This is an NFL rundown, so definitely want to hit on all the games. Had some unfortunate injuries yesterday around the league, which I also want to speak on, and some legitimate surprises. Two of the greatest quarterbacks of this generation are really struggling right now, not getting the help that they need from various places. Talking about the 212s, we're going to hit on that. The Phillies and the Houston Astros have punched their ticket to the World Series each respectively. We are also going to hit on that. And before we get started, just wanted to make a quick mention of a really awesome weekend out in Jacksonville. I want to give a shout out to these guys, the frontliners. I actually won this T-shirt in a raffle, but big shout out to these guys just putting on an awesome weekend. Really excellent tailgate, really awesome people. It's cool to see the fan base have a lot of various groups that just love to do things together, have a great time. Also, did a little volunteer work Saturday prior to the game Sunday with CSX. I was a small part of a big team that put together 10,000 care packages for our soldiers overseas. And I think it's important to make sure that these people know that they are not forgotten and they are thought about. So definitely a big shout out to everyone that did that volunteer work. Definitely fulfilling and for a good cause. Also wanted to give a big shout out to everyone at the tailgate who subscribed to my YouTube channel. Greatly appreciate that. Going to be doing a Victor Cruz raffle mini helmet autographed. But what I wanted to ask those, because on YouTube, unfortunately, it doesn't always show who the new subscribers are, please message me at the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast on IG as well as on Facebook. And we can do the raffle hopefully towards the end of the week and get a winner. And, you guys hit me with your information and we get that out to you. Big shout out to my friend Gary Teeter for sharing the show with so many people. Kind of had to do it on the improv. I wasn't able to get my magnets in time, so went to Office Max and got a few QR stickers. But yeah, definitely a great time. And without further ado, we're going to start with our Week 7 NFL rundown. Going to start it in Duvall. Game I attended yesterday. Sounded like a home game. Giants fans really showed out and turned out. Giants win again and now currently have the second best record in the NFL. But it did not come without a price. 3 injuries to the Giants, 2 on the offensive line, Ben Bredeson, as well as rookie Evan Neal, both with knee injuries. Tight end Daniel Bellinger had a very ugly eye injury. He was unfortunately poked in the eye. He had to go to the local hospital. Hopefully everything is going to be all right with those 3 players. But I will say with Bredeson, it's a little more worrisome. The cart did come out for him. Evan Neal was able to walk out on his own power, but I do believe that unfortunately this is going to be a couple of weeks at minimum for Neal. We'll have to just monitor that, see how it goes. As far as the game, not the prettiest of victories, but the Giants did what they had to do to win in crunch time. Saquon Barkley was held down pretty well going into the fourth quarter. He was able to have over 70 yards in the final frame and to just kind of put the Giants up for good. A little scary towards the end. Some very questionable calls, for lack of a better word. And, the roughing the passer, once again, questionable to say the least, the way they are enforcing that rule. And like I said, this is all spawned from the Tua injury. And while I do believe that it is important to, take onus and make sure that these quarterbacks are protected, it has to be a little more reasonable. I don't think it is very fair to pretty much anyone who plays defense. Giants had their fair share of penalties on that final drive. Thankfully, Jacksonville was out of timeouts. They did an underneath route towards the middle of the end zone. Giants were able to gang tackle and to end the game. But it was definitely a little scary for those final 2 minutes. Happy to come away with a road dub. And, beg to question, with the second best record in the NFL, is it time to start taking the Giants serious? I myself kind of like that they have been underdogs pretty much the majority of their games. They are undefeated as the underdogs. They were the underdogs going into the Jacksonville game. Jaguars definitely have a great deal of talent, but are still killing themselves with untimely penalties and just taking care of the football. Brian Daboll, undeniably at this point, has to be the front runner for Coach of the Year. Very proud of what he has done. And not just him, Mike Kafka, as well as defensive coordinator Wink Martindale. Just bringing back a lot of pride to the Giants. And things are really working out well. Both New York teams are looking great. The New York Jets yesterday were able to get a victory in Mile High Stadium. That also did not come without a price. Unfortunately, rookie running back Breece Hall, they fear he may have torn his ACL. They were going with backup quarterback Rippon, Russell Wilson, playing poorly before being pulled, but he is actually hurt. But you play who's on your schedule, and the Jets have to feel good about themselves going into a very important matchup at MetLife Stadium against the New England Patriots. That's going to be coming up next week. Definitely one of the featured games for next week. And then speaking of the Patriots, their former quarterback, Tom Brady, his Buccaneers, hitting a new low. The undermanned Carolina Panthers, who in the last 2 weeks have moved on from wide receiver Robbie Anderson, as well as superstar running back Christian McCaffrey a Niner. Anderson is now a member of the Cardinals. And I would have to think that DJ Moore is going to be the next big name to get moved. Having said all that, Devontae Foreman put up a great game yesterday in McCaffrey's absence. It looks like he has taken over that running back one for Carolina. So to the fantasy heads, I would suggest definitely putting in a bid for him. I actually did pick him up this week, had him riding my bench, but I'm going to get another win in my Cheddar in the Sun League out here in Winter Garden. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, this is got to be worrisome. This is a team that is only a couple years removed from winning the Super Bowl. Last year came very close from making an epic comeback to end up in another title game. Really, Tom Brady, and you can't blame this completely on him, but definitely looking his age. I know that he has said many a times that he likely isn't going to retire anytime soon after, fake retiring or coming back. As many of you know, he's going through a divorce. I really don't know if this is affecting his play. I mean, there's a lot of blame to be pushed around when you look at what the Bucs are not getting done. Just not smart football. All three phases of the game, the Bucs are failing miserably. But to get beat by 18 to, in my opinion, going into this week, the worst team in the NFL, I mean, you got to sound the alarm. It is rock bottom. I think the positive thing for the Buccaneers is that their division is so bad and so mediocre. I mean, the Atlanta Falcons are probably the only team in that division that poses any threat. New Orleans just can't get past their injuries. And I don't know what to say or make of what Carolina did yesterday, but I think it speaks on how bad the Bucs are playing, more so than what the Panthers did. But, interim head coach getting the dub. They recently fired their coach, Matt Rule. So you got to give credit where it's due. And, Carolina won a football game yesterday and did it pretty handily. Brady is a future Hall of Famer, but I question how much he has left given what is going on around him in Tampa. And I also am not convinced that he is necessarily happy there right now. Tampa did change coaches. Bruce Arians won upstairs. Todd Bowles is now the head coach. And I think Todd Bowles is feeling a lot of the heat of taking over that head coaching job. But ultimately, when you look at this Tampa team, I see guys that are not hungry. I see guys that are older. And I do believe that not having certain players that were leaders during their Super Bowl run or even, the next year after, no more Ndamukong Suh. JPP is a member of the Ravens. Gronk is retired. And AB controversially removed himself probably forever from the NFL. But these are 4 players whose absence is definitely hurting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Going to move it over to another number 12, AR-12, Mr. Aaron Rodgers. He needs some help. The injuries are mounting in that receiving corps. They lose to a very porous Washington Commanders team. I do think that the change at quarterback potentially helped the Commanders here. And Zappy called this on our show. I thought Green Bay would have done just enough to win this game. That did not happen. I have to think that the Packers have to be players at the trade deadline to try to maybe bring in a DJ Moore, a Chris Claypool. I mean, Odell's going to be a free agent. I don't necessarily think that's where he's intending on going. I have a feeling that he might be ending up in KC. I noticed that Kelsey moved around some money to possibly help that situation out. We'll see where that lands. Odell still has to get healthy. But, this is a Packers team where Matt LaFleur is running into his first true losing streak. Remarkably, he has the best winning percentage in terms of how many games coached compared to other great Packer coaches like Mike Holmgren, Curly Lambeau, and Vince Lombardi. But the Packers are struggling. And as of right now, they are falling into a pit where it seems like the Minnesota Vikings, based on where things are, they can kind of play 500 ball down the stretch and end up winning this division. Once again, shout out Mike Zappi. He did call that. I had higher expectations for the Packers, but it seems like ever since losing that game in London to the Giants, they have just legitimately gone south. There's still plenty of time to right the ship. And in the NFC, I do believe that 9-8 could qualify the final team. Seems like the majority of the power is in the NFC East. But, the Packers got a lot of questions, and they're looking for a lot of answers, and they got to find some of these answers soon. Last year's AFC champions, the Cincinnati Bengals, in my opinion, put together their best performance of the season. The offense was truly clicking yesterday. And, they beat an Atlanta team that is surprisingly in the mix. Now, granted, the mediocrity of the NFC South has allowed Atlanta to hang around, and it's also allowing Tampa to not totally hit the panic button despite having a losing record. But, undeniably, this was vintage of what a lot of people expected the Bengals to be on offense this year. So I'd have to think that moving forward, the Bengals have got to be feeling pretty good about themselves. I think it's shaping up to be a 2-team race out in the the AFC North. With Pittsburgh, I wouldn't call it a full-on rebuild. I think it's more injuries, but they are in transition with a young quarterback. And as far as Cleveland Browns go, while I think they're a very talented team, not having Deshaun Watson until late in the year is going to probably cost them a playoff berth this year. But I do believe next year the Browns should be in a good place. But this is definitely between the Ravens, who could potentially be 6-0. They did blow 3 fourth-quarter leads. Ravens are a good team, though. And I do expect that this is going to be a very interesting race down the stretch. The Ravens were able to come from behind and defeat the Bengals the week before this. So the rematch will be good. And if I had to pick a winner right now, I'm leaning towards the Ravens, but the Bengals are definitely looking like they could get their seasons really started now. They were starting slow, and, they had some tough losses. Week 1, getting an extra point blocked. They didn't have a long snapper, losing a weird one to Pittsburgh. And coming up short in Dallas. At the time, it didn't seem like Dallas was going to have the season they're having, but that actually was Dallas's first win. This is a classic former AFC West matchup. The Seahawks have been in the NFC for a while now, but quite the surprise. And this came with some injuries too. Mike Williams was in a lot of pain visibly, hurting his ankle yesterday. Best wishes to him. I hope he's not out for too long, but when you see a guy not being able to put weight, it's definitely an ominous sign. So hopefully he'll be back sooner than later. I think what really surprised me in this game was just the way the Seahawks were able to out-physical the Chargers. I don't necessarily think that when I think of what the Seahawks do, that's something that was going to happen. but it definitely did. And, the Seahawks very much so have as good a chance as anybody to win that NFC West. The 49ers did not put up the best showing yesterday against the Kansas City Chiefs. I expected that game to be a lot closer. Christian McCaffrey's first game there. I'm sure in time they're going to get him going and implement it into the offense all the way. It's tough when you get traded midweek and play with a new team. But right now, the Seahawks look very good. Am I buying them? Kinda. DK Metcalf, potential knee injury. We don't know the severity of that yet. You never wish injury on any player, ever. But what I will say is that with the Giants coming into Seattle this next week, the Giants definitely catch a break, and that is just me showing respect to a very great receiver in DK Metcalf. Geno Smith, past Tyler Lockett, doesn't have a whole lot to work with. So that's going to be tough to replace a player of Metcalf's stature. We'll monitor that injury and see where that goes. Tua Tagovailoa, after one of the more scary moments, probably since the Ryan Shazier career-ending injury, he finally made his comeback and was able to defeat the Pittsburgh Steelers late, ending the Dolphins' skid. It's good to see him out on the football field. That's what he does. But to say that just from the human being level that I wasn't concerned for Tua's safety and health after seeing what we saw and a very negligent job of the Dolphins inserting him into that Bengals game right after the Bills game. It's been a topic that we have talked about many times on this show. But, Miami gets a much-needed win. And, Buffalo looks like even this early in the year, they should be a shoo-in to win that AFC East. But this is a legitimate battle with 2, 3, and 4, with the Jets being 5 and 2, and the Patriots and Dolphins right on their heels. That's going to be a massive game between the Pats and the Jets. The most meaningful Patriot-Jet game probably since the Jets had Rex Ryan. It's been a long time since the Jets and Patriots had this important of a game, and that is going to be something that I'm going to be excited for. I'm not even a Jet fan, but just, as a football fan, going to be a great game. We're going to flip it over to baseball just a moment, but I did want to speak on. Actually, I think I did cover all these injuries now that I see it. Yes, indeed, I did. Going to leave that alone, but we're going to move it over to baseball. The Phillies and Astros advanced to the World Series, and 2 completely different stories getting there. I'll start with the Astros. They were the best team in the American League for pretty much the majority of the second half of the season, after the Yankees early on were flirting with breaking the all-time record. Yankees took a legitimate nosedive in the summer. They were able to recover. The Astros just all phases of the game. Their pitching has been remarkable. Being removed from the cheating scandal and being removed from all of that, and with Dusty Baker coming in, you got to give credit where it's due. And Dusty Baker has done a great job with this Astros team, sweeping my New York Yankees. Definitely licking my wounds on that one today. But, you got to acknowledge that they were just better. I'm going to hit on the Yankees in a moment. Philadelphia Phillies, completely different situation. Mid-season firing their manager, Joe Girardi. Oddly enough, Joe Girardi managed the Yankees when the Phillies last made the World Series. Back in 2009, that was a loss to the Yankees. The Phillies, and I've said this on previous shows, are kind of giving me the Washington Nationals vibes. They finished 3rd in a very competitive NL East. It's pretty remarkable that not only did they beat the division winners, but then in another series where they weren't favored, were able to knock out the San Diego Padres. And even in the very beginning, not too many people, myself included, gave them a chance against what I considered a dark horse Cardinals team. And they were able to take care of business. The energy in Citizens Bank Ballpark has been remarkable. And it looks like the Phillies have got that swag at home that they just can't lose at home. And, when you consider the format of the World Series being 2-3-2, should the Phillies be able to get a split in Houston to start the series, there is got to be a concern for Astros fans if it even returns to Houston. On paper, the Astros are supposed to be the better team. The Astros have held serve, unlike other powerhouses that died. The Mets, the Braves, the Dodgers. Three teams in the NL, the three best teams in the NL, were only able to muster three playoff wins together. That was shocking. You got to give it to this Phillies team. Getting hot at the right time, believing in one another, and just making some clutch plays, both offensively and defensively. They've had, some huge innings that have turned particular games around in all three of these series so far. My prediction on this, I think we're in for a legitimate classic here. You could kind of pitch it as the David versus Goliath matchup. I believe that the Phillies could very well steal game one, coming off just the high wave of emotion that they're with right now. I'm calling for a split in Houston to start the series. I'm calling for 2 out of 3 for the Phillies in Philadelphia. And I do believe that down 3-2, the Astros will come back and win this series. Let me see. I said, pardon me, it's early. Split in Houston, 1-1. Yeah, coming back from 3-2. I got this thing going 7. It's just hard to bet against that pitching staff that the Astros have. And even a guy like Ryan Presley, who got over the hump against the Yankees. That was one of the few advantages the Yankees had over these guys, is that he did not pitch well closing games out against them. Astros in 7. I haven't picked Philly once, and I might be very wrong for that. But I cannot pick against what, in my opinion, is the best team in all of baseball. I know the Astros had the second best record to the Dodgers. But I tend to believe that they are the best team, because when people look at the many 100-win seasons and north of 100-win seasons the Los Angeles Dodgers have had, I don't think they take into consideration that the bottom of that NL West is kind of weak, and that's putting it politely. But the Dodgers are a great team. It's just they have not been able to get it done in October, with the exception of the pandemic season, which was only a 60-game year. So, the Dodgers definitely have a lot to prove, because they're turning into what the Braves were in the 90s, a team that probably was the best team on paper every year. But after a decade, we're only able to win one, and the Yankees actually stole that decade and became the team of the decade. And speaking about my New York Yankees, it'll probably be a while since I bring them back up. Yeah, I guess that's the headline. It does go up in flames. It's disappointing, to say the least. Yankees nursed a lot of injuries towards the end of the year, and I do not like to use injuries as a reason why things do and don't work. But it was painfully obvious to see that, in addition to having more than adequate pitching help, the Astros were just better on that front. We threw our best at them, and they were still better. It's a testament to how good the Astros are. You got to give them credit. But I do believe in the early games in the series, the 2 in Houston, the Yankees had their chances to break through. They roughed up. I would say they put Justin Verlander on the ropes, but were not able to punch through to take the game 1 victory, which I believe could have turned the whole series around. A lot of question marks for this Yankees team going into the offseason. One of their big focal points at the trade deadline was getting Andrew Benintendi. He's actually going to be hitting free agency again. As a fan, I believe that is someone that they need to bring back. One of the big things in this series that was exposed is that the Yankees were really hurting without having a legitimate leadoff hitter. At many junctures of the year, Aaron Judge wore that hat. He was also center field, right field. The MVP, hopefully the future captain, he needs to be retained. That is priority 1 in the offseason for the New York Yankees. I also think something that really came back to bite them were injuries. Mainly, the one that stands out to me above everyone is Michael King. Michael King was pitching the best in his career prior to getting hurt in Baltimore. The Chad Green injury also stung. Matt Carpenter coming back after being gone for so long, he was clearly just his timing wasn't right. But it's the same song for the Yankees. They have became too dependent on the long ball, even tracking it back to the Cleveland series, which I believe they were fortunate to win. I actually think that those 2 rainouts may have helped the Yankees. Some Yankee fans don't share my sentiment. I do believe that it helped. But the Astros, essentially the way Pedro said it, they have become the Yankees' daddy. It is painful, but the Yankees, in order to jump this team, they're going to have to, quite frankly, just become better all around the board. They need a leadoff hitter. That's why I believe Benintendi is so important to bring back. I'm not quite sure what the future for Aaron Hicks holds, but best case scenario for his career trajectory, I consider him an extra outfielder. Not quite sure if they want to reinvest in Matt Carpenter given his age. But I do think that on a positive side of things, the Yankees found some serious add-ons for the future of their infield. I think IKF and Donaldson should both be examined in terms of which one you want to keep. If you keep IKF, I believe that he would be best suited to be a bench piece. Giancarlo Stanton, he can't play the field. Got to keep him in left. The occasional start, yes, but he cannot do it on a day-to-day. And I do think that that's part of the reason why Matt Carpenter might be the odd man out. I mean, in theory, it's kind of cool to have the lefty and the righty as your 2 potential designated hitters. But I think when building a championship team, it's important to have multifaceted guys that can play the field and play the field at a high level. And while I love what Matt Carpenter did for the Yankees, I don't view him in that regard. Garrett Cole, I feel that he pitched his heart out, as did Nestor Cortez. It was unfortunate to see Cortez get pulled with the injury yesterday. Luis Severino, in my opinion, pitched very well in 3 different games against the Astros going back to the season, as well as in the playoffs. He unfortunately did not get the run support. When you think about 4 through 5, there is a potential that Clark Schmidt could be in the rotation next year. That remains to be seen. The Frankie Montes trade did not show its true value yet. Montes just did not look good since putting on a Yankee uniform, so he's got a lot to prove. But I'm optimistic, given the job that Mac Blake has done with so many of the Yankee pitchers, that Montes can be a part of this solution. But, at the end of the day, when I look at it, you make it around before the World Series. I know for Yankee fans, anything short of a World Series berth is a failure. But I do think that it's only reasonable to realize who you lost to and give all the credit to a very great Houston Astros team. I don't want to hear excuses about the past. The past is the past. It belongs there. They earned it. They beat my team. And, you got to take your losses as well as you take your wins. And the Yankees just weren't good enough this year. I am petrified that Aaron Judge could leave. So the Yankees have to do anything and everything in their power to make sure that he comes back. Before I get out of here, just wanted to wish everyone a very awesome week. Got some family in town. I'm actually going to see my cousin AJ and see what he wants to get into, but I haven't seen him in over a year, so very much looking forward to catching up with him. Going to go through some old school family photos that he actually got his mitts on, so looking forward to that, seeing some old school pictures of me and my late father. That should be pretty entertaining. And I also have a DVD that was like converted from beta that my cousin has yet to see of the Italian side of my family. So very excited to getting to show him that and just, have a kind of like a chill day at the pool. Definitely good enough weather to do that. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And again, I want to thank everyone at the tailgate who did subscribe to my channel. I'm going to share this one final time. If your account is private on YouTube, I am not able by name to see who subscribed, but I would greatly appreciate if you guys drop me some messages so that way we can get this raffle going sooner than later. Greatly appreciate you guys following the show, subscribing. It means the world to me. And I do this because, quite frankly, very passionate about this. It's what I love to do. Until next time, guys, I am Richie. Look for me and the guys in the near future to give you a Week 8 preview, and we're going to be also mixing in some NBA as that season is now starting. And LeBron is complaining, and with good reason, talking about how the shooting of the Lakers has been pathetic, for lack of a better word. Until next time, guys, I'm Richie, and I'm out.